Welcome to Fiction Audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendations for novels, comment below.
Please join my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/fictionaudiobook.
Chapter 699, Chapter 698, I lost the marshalsea due to the Sigillites' interference, but Lord Nareth will surely support my descendants. After Lucifer Black Captain Theon leaped onto the city wall, he turned and pressed himself against a cannon. His Necromunda-forged chains roared, its motor-driven blade tearing through several lunging guards. Unlike the outpost guards, the wall's defenders were hardened soldiers, honed by decades of civil war. They didn't panic and fire the unstable, unmaintained cannons wildly. Without hesitation, they charged the black-armored warrior through the splattering blood and flying limbs. Theon advanced, his blade swinging. Blades struck from all sides. He parried, cut, dodged, and thrusted. Over a dozen enemies fell, their bodies pierced by the deadly blade. The enemy surged like a tide. Theon plunged into their midst, cutting a swath through them, leaving corpses strewn in his wake. Outside the wall, Sasebo Tezuka fired a bolt round at a smoking, roaring cannon, far from the black-armored warrior. As a green rune lit up, he shifted his gaze to Lucifer Black. He was advancing rapidly, his speed matching a Shadows of Order charging into enemy ranks. Suddenly, Sasebo saw a grey-armored Zosian officer dive and roll. His curved blade, like a serpent, snaked along the ground, lunging at the Lucifer Black's calf. Without gene enhancement, the black-armored warrior, with a reaction speed not even combat stimulants could grant, sidestepped. He reversed his blade, striking from an angle he had never practiced. A flicker of surprise crossed Sasebo's eyes. The grey-armored warrior rolled, narrowly evading the swift strike. Chain instinctively rolled to evade the swift attack. Shockwaves from the danger behind him pounded his body, forcing him to roll with all his might. He didn't want to die. He wanted to return to his warm home, to embrace his wife and child. He slammed his fist on the ground, propelling himself up. Agony unlocked his potential. He twisted, sidestepping the chain's word, and delivered a fierce horizontal slash. He was confident his charged blow would cut through the armor. He was the finest swordsman. His confidence dissolved in an instant. The black-armored warrior, like a feline from the legends of Terra, humanity's homeworld, evaded with elegant, silent grace. With a crack, his curved blade shattered. He slammed to the ground, stars bursting before his eyes. He felt every bone in his body broken. He struggled to open his eyes, to see the black-armored warrior who had killed him. "Your wall is breached. Surrender." A synthesized voice. He turned. He saw the black-armored warrior, sword in hand, looking down at him. He felt a tremor. He turned. A taller black-armored giant leaped onto the wall. "I surrender," Chain said with difficulty. He knew his nation could not resist these beings from the sky. He felt the shame of defeat, but also relief. He could hold little Diana's again. He had last held his son when he was only 4. Now, his little Diana's was 8. For weeks later, beside the new planetary governor's residence, the foundations were laid for the Lucifer Black's training castle. Theon left the supervision to his deputy, Shield Captain Loran, and walked into his residence. It was the estate of a great noble who had resisted integration. He walked through the withered garden, yet to be replanted. He entered his office, sat, and unrolled parchment. He picked up a quill and began to write. He began, "Honorable General Barton." By ordinary standards, Theon should have addressed him by his surname, Drake. House Drake was now a major power in the Solar Auxilia. But before following Lord Nareth, he and Barton had saved each other's lives countless times on the battlefield, sharing a close brotherhood. He wrote rapidly, "I am saddened to hear you missed becoming the new Lord Marshal of the Solar Auxilia. I have no doubt your achievements fully qualified you for the position. I firmly believe that you and your house will one day lead the Solar Auxilia." He paused, frowning. Barton's achievements were enough for him to succeed as Lord Marshal. Since swearing fealty to Lord Nareth, he had received strong support from the Shadows of Order and its allies. The Necromunda armories had supplied 15 regiments of Barton's faction with superior weapons. Navigator houses Vischer and others, and over 100 other families, provided support in many areas. But this was also why Barton had not attained the Solar Auxilia's highest position. Theon had grown his squad to over 400 men, becoming the core of the Lucifer Black's revival. He was now the undisputed leader of this ancient 100 company. He thus possessed a small but high-level intelligence network. Lucifer Blacks, serving as personal guards to Terran nobles and Solar Auxilia generals, passed him their observations, encrypted in ancient codes. He was certain the Sigillite did not want any general close to a Primarch to become Lord Marshal. He knew the Sigillite always wanted to establish a government independent of the Astartes, including military forces. He shook his head. Having followed Lord Nareth for nearly a century, he had seen shadows of orders develop shattered territories, return to humanity's embrace, into prosperous domains. They were clearly better developed than the Imperium's directly administered worlds, those brutally exploited, inefficient, and bloated. As he thought, he continued. I must express my sincere gratitude. I admit, when I followed you to meet Lord Nareth, I never imagined this day. At that time, I only hoped we would not be. He paused, not writing the names of the Emperor and the Sigillite. Forgotten, relegated to guarding, away from the front lines, and fade away. I only hoped we could fight together, as during the Unification Wars, and win victory. Lord Nareth has provided me with more help than I ever dreamed. I owe it all to you for bringing me to Lord Nareth that day. He wrote rapidly of the past decades. His flowing High Gothic filled the page. As a Lucifer Black, his training included not only swordsmanship. As guards to the powerful, they had to master High Gothic, military command, and other fields to serve as guards to Imperial High Commanders. After 3 pages, he wrote. Recently, Lord Nareth has granted the Lucifer Blacks a recruiting world. Zos. It is not like Necromunda, with its countless billions. But its people, forged by a desperate civil war, are hardened, ruthless warriors. He thought of the 841 candidates he had selected from Zos's youth corps, especially Chain, whom he had fought. He had talent for swordsmanship. Unfortunately, he was too old. He had been appointed military commander of Zos's defense forces. Fortunately, he had found Chain's 8-year-old son, Diana's Chain. A promising youth. He had never seen such talent. His future swordsmanship might even surpass his own, becoming the best in the Lucifer Blacks. Reigning in his thoughts, he wrote his final words. I believe the Lucifer Blacks will be reborn on Zos. I owe it all to you, Barton. It is for this reason that I must use this ancient method, a letter, to fully express my gratitude. May you be victorious. He signed with a flourish, your most loyal comrade in arms, Theon. He rolled the parchment, placed it in a gilded tube, said a password, and sealed it with his mark, a black blade. It would travel through Shadows of Order's supply network, through multiple transports, finally reaching Barton. 917.M30. Barton's mechanical left hand rapidly input 14 digits. Click. 3 pages of parchment ejected. He unrolled the letter. He saw Theon's words of comfort. He raised his glass and downed the black Vosvith vodka. As his stomach burned, he laughed. Theon, I'm not that fragile. He was indeed disappointed at losing the Lord Marshalsea, but he did not regret it. Lord Nareth had always supported him. House Drake members, guarded by the quasi-shadows of orders, had lost only 49 members in nearly a century. Before, during the Unification Wars, that number had been 185. Each quasi-shadows of order was a powerful warrior who had undergone at least 13 augmentation surgeries, nearly becoming a true shadows of order. They had been tempered into resilient, powerful warriors. They had saved many Drake commanders in countless battles. He had witnessed how the once powerful Lucifer Blacks had fallen, and how many military families had perished in brutal wars. He believed that with the protection of the quasi-shadows of orders, House Drake would endure forever, like Lord Nareth. I lost the Lord Marshalsea due to the Sigillite's interference. But Lord Nareth will surely support my descendants in reclaiming it. He clenched his mechanical fist. He quickly read the letter. Seeing that Theon and the Lucifer Blacks had been reborn on Zos, the old general laughed. Good. Excellent. He swung his arm. The 4 men, over 2 meters tall, looked at him. No assassins. He shouted, pleased with their vigilance. Indeed, following Lord Nareth was a wise decision. For both me and Theon. His words made the 4 guards' eyes light up, then dim. They had once had a chance to become Lord Nareth's sons, to be shadows of orders, but had failed at the final stage. They were grateful, though, that unlike most Legion candidates, they hadn't been turned into servitors. As guards to generals and nobles, they had good incomes and could still serve Lord Nareth. As they felt both regret and gratitude, Barton thought of the criminal he had used his influence to save, and whispered. He should still follow Lord Nareth. Staying in the Auxilia won't let him reach his full potential. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/DawesJinsu. Chapter 700, Chapter 699, Guilliman, yet again, I take from your sons. 918.M30. Aboard the Shadow's sovereignty. Nareth leaned back on his throne, scrutinizing the figure entering the Primarch's office. His body was clad in white armor, marked with blue on his helmet, shoulders, and other areas. 3 medical scanners flickered over his left eye. His helmet was connected to a rebreather. A skull was set into his chest. A bandolier held 2 vials of medicine, 1 red, 1 green. Evos Jovan pays homage to Lord Nareth. Evos's blue-gloved hand touched his chest as he bowed. His high Gothic was flawless, impeccable even by Terran noble standards. Nareth looked at the future legendary medic. Memories of him naturally surfaced. Evos was renowned on the hive world of Agathon. Local nobles held him in high esteem for his miraculous medical skills and exquisite surgical techniques. But he was investigated for involvement in forbidden medicine. The Lord Marshal of the Solar Auxilia offered him amnesty. He joined the military, saving countless lives on the battlefield. His autosurgical table was a battlefield asset, capable of performing timely surgery on wounded soldiers. He was also a deadly warrior. His phase scalpel could disintegrate enemy tissue without breaking the skin. Each cut was as precise as his surgical incisions, only killing, not healing. So the Lord Marshal who saved him was Barton Drake. Because Barton swore fealty to me, Malcador suspected him, and he didn't become Lord Marshal. Even so, he still recommended Evos to me. He knew Evos was arguably the foremost medic of the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. Even the apothecaries of the Astartes legions could not match his skill. Barton, even though you lost the Lord Marshalcy, you still offer me the foremost medic. Truly loyal. He decided to cultivate Barton into a Beyonder. As he thought, he looked at Evos. You are skilled in medicine. You will continue as a medic. I have heard of your autosurgical table. It is an innovation, but not enough. His table was excellent for Auxilia soldiers. But Astartes had superhuman healing. Laraman cells would rapidly secrete and cover wounds. Injuries that could cripple an Astartes were far beyond the current table's capabilities. Tech Marines will assist you. Develop a version suitable for Shadows of Order. As you command, Evos replied excitedly. During his short service in the Solar Auxilia, he had heard countless tales of Lord Nareth's victories. He was the conqueror of Xenos. He commanded Shadows of Order, annihilating the Midas Xenos, liberating the Coronid Deeps. He was the eternal victor over humanity's enemies. He commanded multiple legions, winning the Rangdan War. It was an honor to serve Lord Nareth. He watched Evos leave, thinking about which path to cultivate him on, after corroding him. Evos's talent is in surgery, not pharmacology. Doctor suits him better than apothecary. Though Sequence 2, Desolate Matriarch, on the mother pathway would require a sex change, he may not reach that level. With this thought, he decided to send him to the agri-world Rhine, as a planter, to grow medicinal plants. With this thought, he went to the Kingdom of Disorder and picked up the dice of prophecy, thinking. Gilliman, yet again, I take from your sons. Information about Predisa flashed through his mind. Eastern Galactic Edge, Vidar Sector, Segmentum Ultima. A hive world with powerful forging capacity. 80 light-years from the recently integrated Forge world Hypnoth. Predisa was the homeworld of the Mortifactors chapter, an ultramarine successor founded during the 4th founding in the 32nd millennium. The Mortifactors were a solid shield on the eastern fringe, resisting Xenos and demon incursions. They were especially skilled at hunting Xenos. Predisa, along with neighboring Nyx, provided support to the Forge world Hypnoth in manufacturing war machines. Gilliman, you haven't even fully integrated Ultramar. I'll take Predisa, far in the Vidar sector, without apology. After the information flashed through his mind, he silently intoned. Star chart from the Kalium gate to Predisa. After intoning it 11 times, he tossed the dice. The triangular pyramid tumbled through the air, landing in his open palm. A holographic-like scene unfolded. He memorized the star chart and encoded it on a data crystal. He then thought of Predisa, a world constantly under Xenos attack. With a thought, he returned to reality and, through his link, transmitted the information about Predisa to the Gyrinx John. The winner immediately took action, dipping his quill in Fenrisian Kraken blood and rapidly writing on parchment. His ginger-furred body leaned against his bed, quickly falling into a dream. Through the link, Nareth saw a series of coherent images. Slender Xenos ships, wreathed in shimmering light, reached Predisa's orbit. Bowl-shaped ships flew out, landing on the desolate wastelands around the hives. Xenos with fish heads walked from the ships. Their bulging, gray eyes seemed about to burst from their sockets. Glowing dots adorned their bodies, pale green circles, cyan flames. Gray-eyed, fish-headed, glowing dots. Lico fishmen. The main ingredient for Sequence 6, Scroll Professor, on the Hermit pathway. Of the various paths I cultivate, Scroll Professor is the only one I'm missing at Sequence 6. This will complete it. As he thought, he noticed the divination scene wasn't over. After landing on Predisa, the Lico fishmen gathered and launched attacks on the hives. Scene after scene flashed until they broke into the hive spire. As a Sequence 5 winner, when not involving high-level entities, the divination revelations are quite complete. John is definitely a master diviner now. The clear revelations Ozek Ahriman gets from the threads of fate during etheric flight with his Black Raven technique are no better. He selected key information from the divination, encoded it on a data crystal, and went to the Kingdom of Disorder. He ascended the throne in the 4th layer, extended his spiritual energy, and touched the orb. Confirming Ramsey was alone, he sent the crystal into the orb, attaching the command. Lead your chapter to Predisa. It will be the 10th chapter's exclusive recruiting world. He chose the 10th chapter not only because it was the largest, suited to defend the eastern fringe against Xenos, but also because this world, beyond the Astronomican's light, was suitable for Rose bishops to operate. They could freely use Xenos flesh as material for their flesh crafting. Also, constant Xenos attacks would reasonably result in heavy losses. 50,000 men, after over 8 decades on the frontier, would be reduced to 20 or 30,000. A very reasonable outcome. He watched Ramsey, in the orb, clasp his hands, fingers pointing downwards. As you command. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/DaosJinsu. Chapter 701, Chapter 700, Lico fishmen are really delicious, that must be why Father wants them. 919.m30. Eastern Galactic Edge, Predisa system. The 10th chapter's fleet transitioned from the warp. Starlight fragmented the dark void as ship after black ship emerged from the Mandeville Point. Aboard the 36th Company's flagship, the Fland, Sasebo Tezuka stood on the observation deck, gazing at the ships in the void. He said, half-jokingly, I've heard people in other chapters say our Lord has been imitating Father, from his appearance to the chapter's emblem. Our chapter's symbol is a shadow-painted rose. Like the Legion's emblem, it's shadow. I don't think so. Marone emerged from the shadows. The captain and the 3 lieutenants often emerge from shadows. Believe me, they have some kind of shadow power, the telepath said with certainty. They're hard to detect when they hide in shadows. They are court brothers. They wield the power granted by Father. Sasebo's voice held a note of longing. Yes, we've also been put on the observation list. Marone said quietly. 6 new chaplains have recently joined the company. The Master of Chaplains, Pat, has also come to the chapter. If we don't want to lose our chance, we need to be careful. I will adhere to all the tenets, as I always have. Sasebo said confidently. He had always been a role model from the lunar training base. It was his outstanding performance that had allowed him to stand out, pass the screening, and be chosen as a shadow of order. They walked down the corridor towards the strategy room. As the airlock pumped, Marone looked into the room, at the 15 squad leaders around the hololithic tactical table. 5 of them had been promoted after the integration of Zos. Gray forests appeared in the telepath's eyes. He instinctively searched the shadows. Not under the cogitator's shadow, cast by the lumen lights. Not in the elongated shadows of the black armor. None. He thought, puzzled. In his eyes, a gray tree was suddenly touched by a shadow. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 shadows appeared. The 3 lieutenants. He thought. He slowed. Invisible telekinesis rippled from him, spreading through the strategy room. He found the last shadow only as he reached his position. He suddenly turned, looking at the data interface to the Simulus chamber. The darkness there twisted, and a figure emerged. A black-armored giant. The captain's mastery of shadow power is clearly greater than the lieutenant's. The confessor captain reached the table. He spoke, his voice low. You have read the data provided by Father. The world we are to bring into compliance, Predisa, is being invaded by Lico fishmen. The first company's vanguard has already broken through the Lico fishmen fleet center. Their bowl-shaped ship's cannons are no threat to our auto-recharging void shields. As he spoke, one of his lieutenants aimed a control rod at the table. The image shifted to a view of the first company, shared through the Simulus chamber network. Red runes of bowl-shaped ships swirled around black Gothic runes. Red beams shot at the black ships, but each volley reduced their shields by only 0.01%. Powerful auto-recharging void shield technology. An ancient relic from the Phalians. He thought, recalling data he had read in the Librarius. When Father went to Medusa to retrieve Ferrus Manus, he had shared the auto-recharging void shield technology he had discovered there. But compared to the complete technology possessed by the Phalians, the Medusa discovery was only a simplified version. Simulations showed the Phalian auto-recharging void shields could withstand 36.5 times the damage of the Medusa version, and their auto-recharge rate was 61.8 times faster. Praise be to Father. He defeated Russ and preserved this ancient technological treasure. It will reduce our losses. As he thought, the confessor captain continued. Since the Xenos ships pose little threat, he paused deliberately, and the Lord has conveyed Father's command to capture Lico fishmen. The confessor lieutenants and listener squad leaders' eyes lit up. Having served in the honor guard, they knew their father's preferences. Xenos, various peculiar ores, and rare plants, these were what he most enjoyed. Sasebo, hearing father was interested in the Liko fishmen, thought. Is it because they're really delicious? Therefore, we will use boarding tactics in this void battle. The confessor captain ordered. Use hunting guns loaded with Nasirian anesthetic. Finally, I remind you, be careful with the Liko fishmen. My experience is that most creatures' father is interested in possess peculiar powers. 2 standard hours later, black boarding torpedoes slipped into the darkness like silent hunters. Sasebo, his body pressed into his seat, said to his squad, shadows of orders in Mark III power armor. According to Auspex matrix scans, some Liko fishmen have already landed on Predisa's surface. The hangar deck is not our primary target. Our target is the main airlock. It will yield the most valuable prizes. This operation, with my outstanding performance, I will be selected for the honor guard. As he thought confidently, the pilot's voice sounded on the Vox channel. Prepare for impact. 2.5 seconds. Restraint clamps releasing. Good luck. The shadows of orders quickly took hunting guns from the weapon racks, anesthetic needles loaded, and moved to the assault ramp. Sasebo was the first to leap onto the ramp. He raised his gun, aiming at a fish-headed Xenos. He saw a pale green dot ignite in its bulging, gray eyes. It arched its body, spitting a glob of disgusting slime. He remembered the captain's warning and shouted to his men. Jump. Magnetic boots left the ramp. The shadows of orders leaped. The thick, green slime struck the ramp, crackling, quickly corroding a large hole. Thud. As he landed, he fired repeatedly. The hunting gun spat anesthetic needles. The needles pierced the slippery skin. The anesthetic entered the Liko fishman. Its bulging eyes rapidly grew heavy, retracting into their sockets. Whoosh. 2 fishmen's eyes ignited with cyan flames. They puffed their cheeks, exhaling cyan fire. The cold flames struck Terasoldi and Ordonez. Their bodies froze for an instant. A sheen of blue frost covered their black armor. Sasebo and the battle brother beside him immediately aimed at the Xenos. Pop. Pop. Anesthetic needles pierced the fishmen. 3 in a line. Sasebo ordered. Using the frontal defense of Mark III power armor, they withstood the fishmen's sorceress attacks, continuously firing needles. Crack, crack, crack. As they advanced, Xenos after Xenos fell. A smile even crossed his stern eyes. Moments later, he ordered his men to secure the spoils. He took 2 men to reconnoiter the adjacent deck. Though he had already captured the most valuable prizes, the adjacent deck likely held more Xenos. He saw black shadow runes of friendly forces flash. He shook his head. I'm not the only one who's clever. As he and his 2 men returned through the slippery passage, his nose twitched. The scent of blood reached him. He quickened his pace, rushing onto the deck. He stopped abruptly, his pupils dilating. He stared at the 2 men kneeling on either side of a Liko fishman, clutching handfuls of flesh. Terasoldi, Ordonez. What are you doing? Sasebo, Liko fishmen are really delicious. I think that's why father wants them. Ordonez's mouth was stained with blood. He offered a handful of flesh to Sasebo. Sasebo's gauntlet slammed into the flesh, splattering it. Enough. He roared, but his throat quivered. We are shadows of orders. Not ghouls. We only consume Xenos when necessary for intelligence. He was admonishing his men and himself. He felt his body stir. He craved Xenos flesh. I cannot join father's honor guard now. I must deal with Terasoldi and Ordonez. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 702, Chapter 701, The Boundary Set by Nareth. 920.m30. In the 4th layer of the Kingdom of Disorder. Nareth, enthroned high, swept his gaze over the Liko fishman as he listened to the report of Ramsey, chapter master of the 10th chapter. The Rose Bishop's features were carved to resemble Nareth's exactly, but lacked the Primarch's innate noble majesty. The transcendent banner, now layered with the Mentor of Disorders, majesty, made his black mist-shrouded form radiate an indescribable, commanding aura. Feeling this indescribable majesty, Ramsey lowered his head uneasily. My lord, 5 honor guard candidates have submitted applications, forfeiting their eligibility. They were all once faceless. I believe either they, or someone in their squad, driven by genetic instinct, consumed the Xenos they captured. After Ramsey finished his briefing, Master of Chaplains Pat spoke. My lord, I believe this warrants attention. Clear boundaries should be set. In the past century of warfare, shadows of orders have used genetic detection to gain intelligence, but the faceless actions fall outside this category. Nareth nodded. I allow the consumption of Xenos to gain power. The Eldari see humans as monkeys. The Sloth consume human corpses. The Rangdan and Mitu enslaved countless humans. Most Xenos bullied humanity during the long night. We can treat them as livestock. The Emperor granted them this ability. It has value, but there must be clear boundaries. He thought of the Blood Angels who succumbed to the Black Rage, indulging themselves without restraint. The Blood Knights who embraced the Red Thirst. The sorrowing blood feast of the Angels Vermilion. Do not raise Xenos. Do not allow them to attack humans. Do not repeat the mistakes of the Faceless. Especially orcs, which reproduce via spores, and the Drukhari, who feed on fear. Ramsey, the culture you should cultivate is, win victory in battle against Xenos. After battle, consume their bodies to satisfy appetite, gain power, and throw yourselves into new battles. The flesh you and the other rose bishops you should come from enemies, not allies, or the innocent you protect. Ramsey knelt before the indescribable majesty and solemnly acknowledged. By your will. He understood the Black Emperor's requirements and knew the boundaries he must strictly adhere to. He felt his abilities were now limited, but also knew that without limits, the powers the Black Emperor had granted them could spiral out of control. He recalled, as a listener, hearing the whispers of the Tan Shard, the silent cry. He recalled, after becoming a Rose Bishop, emerging from a Rangdan Xenos, the looks of fear in the eyes of the Pavoni cult Thousand Sons. Even Astartes librarian specializing in biomancy found his fleshcrafting too strange. Nareth turned to the Master of Chaplains, satisfied. Pat, you and the chaplains must provide guidance and be vigilant in review and inspection. After they acknowledged, with a thought, black mist enveloped them, returning them to reality. He then extended his spiritual energy, touching Thomas, chief librarian on Mancora, and Okafor, also a telepathist. He saw them riding golden griffins, soaring through the air. Below, black-robed librarian aspirants looked up, feeling the griffins' roars. With a thought, he formed the command for Thomas to end the lesson and leave the aspirant site, transmitting it to the orb through a subtle connection. He also ordered the Jokero to concoct the Sequence 6 Scrolls Professor potion, using Liko fishmen and other materials. Moments later, he extended his spiritual energy, pulling Thomas into the kingdom of disorder. My lord. Thomas bowed. Nareth nodded. With a thought, the newly concocted Scrolls Professor potion floated into Thomas's palm. Thomas examined the potion, pleased. It resembled a mass of slick, brown fish skin. Countless mysterious patterns covered the flat skin. Patches of colored light were layered. Rising flames, like fireworks, bloomed. He drank it in one gulp. It felt like swallowing a piece of leather. He suppressed the urge to retch and swallowed. The potion slid down his esophagus, then ignited. Whoosh! As the ball of fire fell, countless runes appeared in his ever-open eyes of mystery prying. As whispers flooded his mind, the runes rose with cyan flames, arranging themselves neatly into rows and paragraphs. His head throbbed. He discerned the scrolls formed by the runes. Frost Scroll. Paralysis Scroll. Wind Scroll. Moments later, the newly promoted Scrolls Professor knelt. Thank you, my lord, for your gift. I will surely use the power you have granted me well. You have mastered the ability to craft scrolls. As he spoke, with a thought, sheets of leather materialized. Giant spiders' barbed hide. Slippery, large chunks of kraken hide. The giant spiders unique to Necromunda provided the ingredients for pleasure, but not the entire creature. The main ingredients were the eyes and spinnerets. The supplementary ingredients were fangs and legs. Though the Fenrisian kraken was not among the unlocked potion recipes, the keratin hooks on its tentacles, its sword-like fangs, its huge eyes and bones, all radiated vibrant spiritual energy, clearly exceeding other parts. Based on the giant spider, he hypothesized these parts were potion ingredients. The rest were reagents. He kept the hide of the iron scale kraken for armor enhancement. Common kraken hide could be used for scrolls. You will use these to craft scrolls. He instructed. The Scrolls Professor's strategic value was far greater than the Warlock's. They could now support other court members. A Warlock's spells required visualizing the corresponding symbols in the mind, which many paths found difficult. But scrolls could be easily used by beyonders of other paths. They only needed to recite the incantation and expend some spiritual energy to activate. Seeing the mountain of materials around him, Thomas felt surrounded by a treasure hoard. I will make good use of these materials to craft scrolls. Okafor will assist you. With a turn of his hand, a newly concocted Scrolls Professor potion appeared. After sending Thomas and the leather to the altar on Mancora, he extended his spiritual energy and pulled Arcas Fal from the Nicor into the Kingdom of Disorder. He looked down at the Legion Master of the 19th Legion and asked. Horus has discovered the Kelek world. As my lord's insight, Lord Horus's exploration fleet reported discovering the Kele world 3 standard days ago. Arcas was not surprised the Black Emperor knew the Luna Wolves' progress. Such was the Black Emperor's power. You will volunteer to hunt the Kele. The Kele were Xenos the Luna Wolves would exterminate in 923. They were also the main ingredient for Sequence 5, Disciplinary Paladin, on the Justiciar pathway. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 703, Chapter 702, An Easy Horus, Closing the Gap with Nareth. 921.m30. Kele Surface. Balsar Kurthuri, recently promoted to Chief Librarian of the 19th Legion, raised his bolt pistol at the Kelekid. Crack, crack, crack. Bolts shot at the lizard-like Xenos. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Kelekid dodged, leaping among the crimson rocks. Its movements were swift. Most shots missed. The first bribed bolt struck the Xenos as it crashed into an indigo stream. The adamantium-tipped round tore through its viscous skin, detonating in the reddened flesh. Large chunks of flesh dissolved in the explosion, revealing white bone. The Kelekid roared in fury, turning and leaping towards the rocks in the stream. Crack! Crack! He fired 2 more shots. The briber's continuous bolts killed the Kelekid, its movement slowed, its defenses weakened. I cannot understand their combat principles at all. He looked around. The honor guard used the Black Emperor's hunting guns, firing Nasirian anesthetic-laced needles. He said admiringly to Legion Master Arcas Fowl. The Kelekid were even stranger than the ones he had bribed. They offered no resistance, retreating like a tide towards the crimson rocks. They were not afraid of bolt gun barrages. Even the smallest of these reptilian Xenos required 3 or 4 hits to kill. The Kelekid he had killed with bribe was only average in size. They had explosive strength and high combat skill. They should have given the Legion's warriors a hard fight. They only fight in those square arenas, kilometers in length and width. Their culture forbids war in other areas. Arcas raised his hunting gun and fired a needle. Thwip. The needle struck a Kelekid's body. The syringe spun. The anesthetic entered the lizard-like form. After 2 leaps, the Kelekid crashed onto the crimson rock with a thud. This anesthetic is really effective. More useful than bolt guns or chain axes in this situation. Arcas said as he advanced, looking at the retreating tide of Kelekid with a sneer. They want us to follow their customs, to accept their punishment in those open arenas. Using their principles, we can hunt the entire Kelekid race at little cost. The briber's eyes deepened, thinking of the Black Emperor's command. Exactly. The wind-blessed Arcas, surrounded by invisible currents, slowly rose into the air. He strode, flying swiftly over the Kelekid's heads. The Kelekid, waving their weapons, ran and howled, but none threw them at him. He flew over their heads, soon seeing the square arena, 2.5 kilometers on each side. He descended, firing a needle from one open edge into the arena he named Hunting Ground. Swoosh. The needle flew into a Kelekid's viscous body. He rose, easily evading a thrown axe, thinking silently. This is easier than target practice on a training range. Even powerful races, bound by foolish principles, are like livestock waiting to be butchered. He circled, attacking from the air. His honor guard waded through the water, pursuing and hunting the Kelekid. At the same moment, the 19th Legion opened 2 other hunting grounds. To avoid exposing their connection to the Black Emperor, Arcas only issued hunting guns to his honor guard and the guards of Nareth Kareen and Alastair Rushell. The hunt lasted an entire standard year. Only when Horus Lupercal's fleet arrived in orbit did the last transport ship, laden with paralyzed Kelekid, lift off, heading for the Nicor. Arcas waited on the landing pad for the pearly-white Aquila lander to descend. He saw Lord Horus approaching, flanked by 2 of the Mournival. First Company Captain Ezekiel Abaddon's black topknot rose high, swaying like a branch. Hastur Sejanus nodded and grinned. The Primarch raised a fist to him. His handsome, noble face was wreathed in a smile. Arcas, Horus called him by his given name, warmly. Your legion has achieved a great Xenos extermination. It is commendable. His tone was warmer than usual. He was pleased with Arcas's volunteered request. With the 19th Legion doing the killing, the Luna Wolves could bring lost human colonies into compliance in a more civilized manner. Horus's sea-green eyes were bright, flecked with mottled amber. In the past, he would have had to consider Arcas's and the 19th Legion's thoughts. He had intended for his own legion to do the bloody, brutal cleansing of the Kelekid. He hadn't expected Arcas to volunteer for the task. The Luna Wolves were freed from that morass. In a single standard year, they had brought 2 systems and 5 lost human colonies into compliance. This further closed the gap in achievements between him and Nareth. In the past year, Nareth had reported 3 worlds brought into compliance by the Shadows of Order. A smile on his face, he walked to Arcas. He put his arm around Arcas's shoulder, feeling the 19th Legion master flinch at the intimate contact. He gently turned them to face the Remembrancers. Click. Lights flashed. The Remembrancers recorded the moment excitedly. He released Arcas's shoulder and said with a smile. I have more good news. There's word of your father. My father has gone to the southern edge of the galaxy. If you leave now, you will meet your father on Terra. Arcas's eyes lit up. Besides the 2nd Legion, forbidden to be spoken of the 19 remaining Astartes legions, only his lacked a Primarch. With the Black Emperor's protection, he had not felt the sense of loss and urgency the Warhounds once did. But hearing of his Gene father's return, he couldn't help but imagine how his father would lead them to new glory. Arcas Fal, filled with hope, returned to the Nicor. He knelt at the altar, intoned the Black Emperor's true name, offered the Kelekid, then clasped his hands, fingers pointing downwards. My lord, the Emperor has found my Gene father. I will return to Terra to meet him. 3 seconds later, he saw the black mist churn. The commanding voice of the Black Emperor enthroned high sounded. I understand. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 704, Chapter 703, You are not exiled by Corax, you are given a new life. You need only follow my commands. 922.m30. Terra orbit, aboard the Nicor. Arcas Fal, the former Legion Master of the 19th, walked down the ramp of the Aquila lander, his expression somber. The Honor Guard members paused. Even the youngest among them, who had followed Arcas for over 13 years, could sense the subtle change in his mood. Since the return of his Gene father, Corvus Corax, Arcas's usually calm eyes had gleamed with brilliant light. Now, a lingering gloom had gathered in them. His pale skin grew paler. His black pupils were vacant. He looked at his Honor Guard. He did not explain. He said to his captain. Take the item the Emperor entrusted to me to my private armory. As you command. The captain's voice was cold. He showed no joy at being trusted by the Lord of Humanity with a glorious task. The Honor Guard watched Arcas leave, uneasily, then silently followed the captain. You will know soon enough. The captain faced their questioning gazes. Lord Arcas will announce our future fate before we set sail. His voice was low. His eyes were gray. In his captain's quarters, Arcas had his servitors remove his power armor in silence. He grabbed a black robe, quickly put it on, and strode to an inner chamber. He pressed his hand to the control panel. A green rune lit up. The moment the door opened, he walked in, eager. He quickly checked the altar, confirming the candles and the placement of the monarch's iron code. Then, using a ritual knife made of dual-numbered black gold, he created a psychic environment. He knelt on a black onyx cushion and recited the formal liturgy in Dunnic. Black Emperor of Shadows of Order. I beseech thy gaze. His eyes dimmed. He continued. I pray to thee. I, and 15,213 Terran-born, have been exiled by our Primarch. We are being sent to the Imperium's borders, to ceaselessly seek out and destroy all enemies of humanity. His voice was low. He hadn't expected to fall so far. He was the first Legion Master to be exiled. He had been abandoned by his father. Lost, Arcas held on to his last shred of hope, praying to the Black Emperor. I beseech thy favor. I beseech thy guidance. He repeated the prayer. He felt time slow in the silent chamber. He prayed uneasily. On the third repetition, black mist rose around him. An ethereal gate opened with a howl. An irresistible force enveloped him. The gloom in his eyes began to dissolve. Seeing the majestic figure enthroned in the black mist, he immediately knelt. My lord. Nareth looked down at the kneeling Arcas. The mentor of disorder saw the grayness coiling around his spirit, and the flickering specks of orange hope. Do not worry. The Black Emperor's voice was calm and firm. Arcas's unease instantly dissolved. He reported, somewhat puzzled. Our first meeting was cordial. But when I saw him again yesterday, he coldly asked about our past campaigns. After hearing my report, he accused me and the Terran-born of being too brutal. He gave me no chance to explain. He exiled me and most of the Terran-born. Nareth nodded. He knew Corax had reviewed the War Council's records. 3 decisive factors had led Corax to this decision. The Emperor had trained the Terran-born to be brutal warriors. He did not voice this reason. It was not appropriate to mention when Arcas was uneasy and sensitive. He would suspect Nareth was blaming him and the Terran-born. He gave the other 2 reasons. The Emperor placed the 19th Legion under Horus's command. You were his sharp blade. He gave you many bloody missions, ones that would tarnish the Luna Wolves' glorious image. Arcas frowned. If it were anyone but the Black Emperor, he would have immediately rebuked them for insulting Lord Horus. But the words came from the Black Emperor. He instinctively obeyed the majesty and recalled the past. Some Primarchs wouldn't care. They wouldn't exile you. But you have Corax. Guilliman also disliked the Terranborn, but he didn't exile them. He simply treated them as a necessary evil for carrying out exterminatus. Corax landed on Deliverance. He was raised by slave laborers. He watched them work day and night under the guns of armed guards. He sees you as the guards who oppressed the slaves. Arcas understood. I see. He recalled Corax's cold distance. His face darkened. He knew he and the Terranborn were permanently exiled. They would never be recalled. Nareth looked down at him. He pointed out Horus's intentions to sever Arcas's good feelings towards him. Mentioning Corax's past was to cut off his illusions. The Carcaradons were a force beyond the sight of all factions. A wild card whose allegiance would be hard for enemies to judge. You are not exiled by Corax. You are freed from chains. You are given a new life. From this day forward, you need only follow my commands. Arcas's eyes lit up. His sense of loss and confusion vanished. He looked devoutly at the throne, at the Black Emperor he would serve for life. My lord, command me. The mentor of disorder looked at the wind-blessed, seamless, pale blue spirit. He knew he had digested the potion. You will go to Noctis immediately. I will grant you new power. En route, select capable trusted men. I will grant them power. Previously, besides those he had taken, he had not cultivated followers in other legions. On one hand, their loyalty was unproven. Even shadows of orders required his personal review and inspection. Even more so for other Primarch sons. On the other hand, large-scale cultivating warriors from other legions would be easy to expose. But now, the Carcaradons were exiled. There were fewer concerns. He included them in his Beyonders cultivation program. Prioritize those from the gene seed I have granted you. Since corroding Arcas in 862, over 60 years, he had corroded 1,369 gene seed. This did not include Nareth Karine's and Alastair Rush's companies. The Storm Lord will send them to me. They will assist you when they return. With a turn of his hand, a data crystal appeared. With a thought, the gleaming crystal fell into Arcas's hand. For the next 80 years, your task is to find the horn fragment mentioned in the crystal. The detectives, led by the polymath Arsena, studying the Hrud's mycelium books, had deduced that a region beyond the eastern galactic edge held a domain Laker once ruled. Using the Blade of Shadows as a focus, he had recently divined with the Dice of Prophecy, obtaining the star chart to that world. The winner John had further divined, confirming the level of danger. He then decided to assign this task to the Carcaradons. Arcas's eyes lit up. The Black Emperor's task, like a shining beacon, dispelled the fog ahead. His chapter had a clear goal. My lord, by your will. His eyes regained their former resolute calm. He continued. My lord, after being exiled, the Emperor entrusted an item to me. The Void Glass. Nareth's eyes lit up. The Emperor had, as in his memory, entrusted the Void Glass to the Great Remembrancer. It was the Emperor's contingency for a dark future of the Imperium. He knew the Void Glass was different from the Dionysian Spear. It was not made by the Emperor. He instructed. Offer it to me. Moments later, a strangely shaped piece of black glass appeared in his hand. Term correction. Shrieking Void Glass. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawisjinzu. Chapter 705, Chapter 704, Emperor, what did you see when you removed your mask and faced your naked, true soul? As Terra held grand celebrations for the return of Corvus Corax, marking the return of all Primarchs to their legions, the fleet of Arcas Fowl, the former Legion Master of the 19th Legion, departed orbit. Arcas stood on the observation deck, gazing deeply at his homeworld. Set course. Destination, Noctis. A lingering gloom still clouded his dark eyes, the shame of being the first Astartes Legion Master to be exiled, but it was now mixed with anticipation for the future. All armor, vehicles, and ships are to be repainted according to my new scheme. At the same moment, in the fourth layer of the Kingdom of Disorder, Nareth watched the piece of black glass spin in his hand. It looked like molten obsidian that had solidified into crystalline rock. Parts of this molten crystal had solidified into flowing forms, as if subjected to unimaginable heat. Golden Man, thank you for still entrusting the Void Glass to Arcas. He gently stroked the bottom of the glass, offering thanks. It was cold to the touch, as cold as polar ice, seeping into the soul. Only darkness lay within the glass. To look into it was to look into the endless darkness of the universe. The void within the void glass expanded on a plane beyond the physical, containing every star and planet, every human and xenos. It was the convergence point of all beings in reality and the warp. His eyes deepened. He recalled that 10 millennia later, the Carcaradons' chaplain Tangata Manu would lose it in a xenos attack. Manu would search for nearly 15 centuries, only determining, after the Great Rift opened, that the void glass had ended up in Comarak. He captured Urak, a commander of the Cabal, and locked him in a windowless, featureless, silent room. Urak, broken by the sensory deprivation, led them to a webway gate and into Comarak. The Carcaradon team, upon finding an Archon, was forced into the arena. Manu's older brother, the Carcaradons' chief librarian, the pale nomad Tekahuranji, used the Drakari sphere of psychic powers to win repeatedly. But then the arena's mistress, Lelith Hesperax, entered the arena and single-handedly decimated the entire Carcaradon team. Her speed made bolters seem slow. She pierced the Carcaradons' power armor with an ordinary dagger, killing several in moments. Psychic flames were too slow to threaten her. Just as the Carcaradons were about to be wiped out, a boy, Jonah, touched the void glass, intoned the activation word, and activated the ancient relic. Everyone saw the void. All their lies and self-deceptions reflected back their soul's mirror image. Hesperax saw herself chasing an unattainable wind, finding no worthy challenge, only depravity, brokenness, and a self clinging to past glory. Tekahuranji saw the sea monster that had killed his mother and family, tormented by his hatred. Manu saw himself as a jagged killing machine, realizing he was no longer truly human. The void glass's reflection showed everyone their warp mirror, causing massive chaos. The panicked Drakari fled, even causing a stampede. The powerful arena mistress dropped her weapon, crawling in agony, returning the void glass to the Carcaradons, begging them never to return. Manu, believing the relic too terrible for anyone to possess, showed he had become a monster he despised. He thought the Void Father, entrusting it to the Great Remembrancer, perhaps never intended it to be used at the end, only forgotten. He sank the void glass into the ocean world of Sagalaya. He reported to his chapter master, Tiberos the Red Wake, that he hadn't found the relic, and was executed. Reigning in his thoughts, Nareth said with feeling. The void glass is a terrible mirror. It reflects a person's truest self. Truer even than the mind. The mind's reflection includes a person's memories, thoughts, and even the hidden parts below the conscious, but it is still based on their own cognition. The soul's mirror, unknown to oneself, cannot be reflected by the mind. He thought of the only known person to have activated the void glass and looked into their own soul's mirror, the Emperor. So, Golden Man, what did you see when you removed your mask and faced your naked, true soul? Dark King. End and death. Destroyer of countless species. Did you resist your fate because you saw your own terrible soul? Thoughts raced through his mind. Images of what the Emperor might have seen flashed by. After 11 seconds, he reined in his thoughts and again looked into the endless void. The Mentor of Disorder could see the white threads of law coiling around it, shining with the purest light, condensing into a gleaming gate. A gateway to the Sea of Souls. He recalled the activation word for the void glass, the word Jonah had spoken, gate. He also thought that only certain people could open it. When the Carcaradons retrieved it, they tried to activate it. They spoke the word, but it didn't respond. They concluded that only those chosen by the Void Father, Rang, could activate it. He stroked the cold relic. It may not be the Emperor's chosen. He didn't make it. The boy, Jonah, may have had a special soul, meeting conditions set by its maker. But that's not a problem for me. With this thought, it vanished. In the third layer's black mist, the strangely shaped black glass appeared. Whether he could open it or not, he wouldn't try now. On one hand, it would affect those nearby. He needed to be alone. On the other hand, he needed to link with it, to deal with the possible drastic change after looking into his own soul's mirror. After linking it, even if an uncontrollable drastic change occurred, he could close it. Just as he was about to return to reality, he heard prayers. He looked at the expanding and contracting orb. It was Nareth Keelan, the Ashclaw's shadow captain of the Raven Guard. The Mentor of Disorder extended his spiritual energy, touching the orb. He saw Nareth kneeling at an altar. His hands were clasped, fingers pointing downwards, resting against his chest. He prayed uneasily. My lord, though our Gene Father did not exile us, he does not trust us either. With a thought, he formed the information to convey and transmitted it to the orb. Stay with the Raven Guard. Train in the shadows. It will help you master the power I have granted you. After instructing the seasoned confessor, he extended his spiritual energy, touching Alastair Russell's orb. He similarly instructed the newly promoted confessor to stay with the Raven Guard, to learn to master the power of shadows. If nothing changes, Horus will still force Corax to obey commands, to assert the War Master's authority. The remaining Terranborn may still be exiled before the heresy. He murmured, then returned to reality. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 706, Chapter 705, Lord Russ's Armor, now worn by Skesny. 923.m30. Ocean World, Noctis. Archez Fal, newly promoted Ocean Songster, approached the Obnus's closed mouth. He suddenly burst into song, singing loudly. The usually quiet, taciturn man no longer restrained himself. He poured the resentment of being exiled by his gene father, the shame of being exiled as a legion master, into his song. His low voice rose, expressing his pent-up anger, then softly, gently, poured out his sorrow. The emotionally charged song echoed within the Obnus's vast body, moving it to emit a long, drawn-out roar. Crack! Archez shot out like a cannonball. He ended his song with a long, high note, leaving his sorrow, anger, and shame behind. He closed his mouth. His black-robed body fell into the water, swimming like a swift shark. His pale skin immersed, ocean currents washed over him. Every cell in his body danced. Wonderful. A pity. I must soon embark on a new journey. Inspiration struck. He thought of the water tanks he had seen aboard the 9th chapter's ships, under Storm Lord Skesny. I will install water tanks on the Nicor. Fill them with Noctis' seawater. As he thought, he broke through the waves, swimming towards the fortress under construction. 3 Terran hours later, the full-fledged, wind-blessed Archez, surrounded by invisible currents, rose from the water, leaping onto a cliff. He looked up. At the cliff's peak, a figure leaped down. The howling wind slowed. The black-armored figure landed before him. The currents around him dissipated. He landed silently on the cliff face. Archez, congratulations on becoming an ocean songster. Skesny said with a smile. Praise be to my lord. All is his gift. Archez said devoutly, his hands naturally clasped, fingers pointing downwards. Since leaving Terra's orbit, he had prayed to the Black Emperor more and more, praising him. Skesny made the same gesture. His armor clinked, radiating cold. Archez looked curiously at Skesny's armor. It was completely different from what he had worn the day before. His gaze swept over the runes. They looked familiar. After a moment's thought, he asked, surprised. Wolf King Leman Russ's armor. I've seen his frost armor. Though the paint is different, and it's been resized, the runes are the same. He took a deep breath. The sea wind, mixed with the cold, filled his lungs. Yes, it's his. He said affirmatively. It has a unique heat-dissipating generator. When activated, it absorbs surrounding energy, especially thermal and kinetic. The Primarch's body would be enveloped in deadly cold. It is indeed the armor Russ once wore. Skesny's tone held no respect. Since learning that Russ had sent Rune Priest O their wordmake to scheme to gather evidence of Shadows of Order abusing sorcery, he had no goodwill towards the wolf or his wolves. The Reaper Lord won it in a duel against Jorin, Wolf Lord of the Space Wolves' 13th Great Company. Russ staked it. Skesny did not detail the battle on Lecter. The Emperor had forbidden mention of the 2nd Legion. Sanchez defeating Jorin is no surprise. Archez nodded. Sanchez had the Black Emperor's gift. How could a wolf compare? The Forge Lord resized it for me, incorporating the Dominum armor's adaptive system. Skesny said. His old armor, unlike Knight Lord Thierry Vieira's, had not been passed down to another Shadows of Order. It had been rewarded to House Sicarius, the ruling family of Talasser. The planetary governor's second son, Mattius, had led auxilia forces assisting the 9th chapter in battle, with great distinction. They had also heavily developed the storm adamantine deposits in the Shattered Isles of Talasser, forging storm axes for the 9th chapter. Storm adamantine, forged by millennia of waves, was incredibly tough. Storm axes, after cleaving countless enemies in battle, would not dull in the slightest. After donning the Huntress armor, Mattius's body had been adapted by its systems. He now had the robust, towering form of an Astartes. Lord Russ's armor, now worn by Skesny. Archez thought with feeling. He looked at the armor, perfectly fitted to Skesny, with no sign of reforging. He spoke. Tech Priest Malvolius's armor is a masterpiece, each suit a rare treasure. Though only a Tech Priest, Malvolius's skill was unmatched in the Imperium. Lord Horus's armor was forged by him. He also worked on Lord Ferris's Medusa armor. Malvolius had once only forged armor for Primarchs. Now, he mass-produced it for Shadows of Order's court brothers. It was puzzling. Only the Black Emperor could command such a feat. He will also forge custom armor for you. Skesny said. With a thought, he activated the thousands of metal plates connected to his neural cortex. The hinged framework, linked by microfiber bundles, activated. The seasoned, wind-blessed rose. Archez also rose. They ascended rapidly. After 30 meters, his ascent slowed, and he fell behind. As the distance between them grew, Arcas began to fall, while Skesny continued to rise. 6 standard hours later, Arcas, filled with anticipation, walked onto Malvolius's forge deck. He saw the red-robed Malvolius standing at a workbench, his servo-arms moving rapidly over ornate armor plates. He approached the table. His eyes flickered. The image that had flashed through his mind earlier returned. Lord Russ's right pauldron. Malvolius turned, recognizing Arcas Fowl, the former Legion Master of the 19th Legion, exiled by Lord Corax, now serving Lord Nareth, the incarnate Omnicia. Lord Fowl, you are indeed well-traveled. His servo-arms lifted from the ornate plates. By my lord's command, the remaining pieces of the Elavagar, after forging Lord Skesny's suit, will be used to craft a new suit for Lady Marlena Scala. My lord initially wished to forge a suit for his aide, Arsena Dunn, but his body cannot bear heavy armor. Also, his flame-based psychic abilities would be suppressed. Lady Marlena ultimately received the opportunity. Malvolius recalled the training ground at Vostroya's Shadowhold, where Marlena had punched a training partner, sending him flying over 10 meters. She was like a humanoid bear. After his reverie, he examined Arcas Fowl appraisingly. Lord Fowl, my assistants will provide technical support to your chapter, helping your tech marines complete the repainting and holy blessings as quickly as possible. Now, tell me. What kind of armor do you need? If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 707, Chapter 706, Carcaradons swear fealty only to Lord Nareth. In orbit around the ocean world Noctis, Arcas Fowl strode from the Nicor's command deck onto a platform overlooking the layered decks. Above him, servo skulls, operated and maintained by tech marines, cast green light. He glanced at the circling servo skulls, which were projecting his image onto every hololith and screen across the fleet. Clad in his suit of premium black gold alloy, he walked to the platform and gripped the railing firmly. He looked down at his battle brothers on the layered decks. Their armor was painted a dark gray. On each right shoulder guard was the chapter's emblem, a white, returning shark with fins. He opened the Vox amplifier. His voice was low. I imagine you have been confused lately. Our Primarch returned, yet we left alone. Some of you know why. Some have guessed. Now, I will tell you all the cruel truth. The Primarch has ordered us to leave Imperial space, to go to the Imperium's frontiers, to ceaselessly seek out and destroy humanity's enemies. He paused, then emphasized, his voice heavier. Ceaselessly. Not the exploration and reconnaissance of the 5th Legion. We are stalkers in the dark outer reaches. He paused deliberately, giving the Astartes time to think. His voice echoed through the decks. The warriors in dark gray armor grew even paler. Exile. They were being exiled by their Gene Father. Confusion filled their eyes. Why had their Gene Father exiled them? They had given everything for the Imperium. The entire fleet fell silent. The crew, in the oppressive atmosphere, dared not speak. The navigators and astropaths, in their mind's eye, saw only the churning great ocean. Each shark licked its wounds. They circled, raising terrible waves. The ocean songster, Arcas, gripping the railing, activated his spirit vision and looked down. Thick grayness permeated the layered decks, shrouding each battle brother like a heavy fog. Those who had known or guessed showed dark red anxiety, and some blue of calm contemplation. The giant clock on the dome ticked. As the second hand was about to complete one full cycle, Arcas spoke again. We will obey the Primarch's command. But we will forget our Gene Father, Lord Corvus Corax. I am the great remembrancer. We are the forgotten. He has forgotten us. We will forget him. The deck was silent. No one argued. They silently accepted the command. Compared to the vague Primarch who had returned and immediately exiled them, Arcas Fowl, who had led them in battle for over a century, was more real. His command was more acceptable to the forgotten. Their Gene Father had exiled them. They would forget him. Seeing no objection, he raised his left arm and tapped his right shoulder guard 3 times. Thud. 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 We are the Carcaradons. The Astartes in dark gray armor raised their right arms and tapped their shoulder guards in unison. We are the Carcaradons. The Vox channels echoed with the Carcaradons' low, dull roars. The crew breathed softly, then deeply. The breaking of the silence relieved their taut nerves. After calming their anxiety, they realized they were embarking on a dark path. The dark outer reaches, beyond the Lord of Humanity's Astronomicon. The dark outer reaches, filled with terrifying, unknown Xenos. The only solace was that the powerful Astartes, not they, would face these evil Xenos. The navigators, their third eyes hidden by ornate jewels, and the astropaths, clutching their ornate staves, felt the waves in the sea of souls surge, then gradually subside. They breathed a quiet sigh of relief. The few remaining imperial nobles had already made their choice. They would obey the emperor's command and follow Arcaz into the dark outer reaches. Arcaz glanced at the strings of gray-white feedback runes on his helmet display, confirming every company and squad had shouted the call. He ended this brief chapter founding ceremony. Prepare to set sail. The great remembrancer, as always calm and firm. The Carcaradons immediately moved to prepare, in silence. He closed the chapter's Vox channel and ordered the tech marines. Shut down the servo skulls. End the hololithic projection. Close all doors to all decks. The tech marines' servo arms projected beams of light. The servo skulls glowed red. They flashed through the air, rapidly moving away. With a rumble, the doors to the various decks closed. With a thought, he activated the thousands of metal plates connected to his neural cortex, forged from premium black gold alloy based on squat technology. The microfiber bundles of his custom-forged suit, the hinged framework, activated. The seasoned, wind-blessed, was surrounded by currents generated from thin air. He rose, descended slowly, circling between the 20th and 21st decks of the 40 decks. He looked around, examining the decks. He opened his amplifier and spoke to his 3,350 trusted men. Lord Nareth has accepted us. From this day forward, we no longer swear fealty to the Emperor of Mankind. Not to Corax. The Carcaradons swear fealty only to Lord Nareth. Faith in the Black Emperor had not yet been promoted on a large scale even in Shadows of Order. Arcaz did not openly preach faith, only clarifying their allegiance. The Carcaradons' black pupils dilated. They stared in shock at the great remembrancer. A second later, the honor guard captain on the first deck knelt on one knee. We follow Lord Fal. We swear fealty to the monarch of Vostroya. The honor guard on the first deck knelt. The Carcaradons on the layered decks knelt like a dark grey tide, spreading layer by layer. We follow Lord Fal. We swear fealty to the monarch of Vostroya. Arcaz looked around, confirming all his trusted men had sworn fealty. He spoke. Lord Nareth has granted me wondrous power. Now, you have the same opportunity. Those I previously selected for a mission, 1,129 of you. Your mission is to follow Lord Nareth. He will choose the best among you to grant power. He did not send all his trusted men. On one hand, the Black Emperor had said not too many. On the other hand, most of his trusted men were commanders. He could not lose most of them simultaneously. A stalled command structure could not respond to the threats of the dark outer reaches. Of those he selected, 659 had gene seed granted by the Black Emperor. Among the rest were 7 company captains, 18 adjutants, and 27 honor guard members. The honor guard captain's black eyes lit up. The majestic figure he had seen on the forge world of Xana flashed through his mind. The demigod in black armor, golden wings on his back, descending from the sky. He swung his arm. Dazzling golden light fell. The titan-sized Asivor crashed down. He swung his crystal greatsword. Blue-white light fell, knocking the crystal greatsword from the pale Cerebor's hand. Abandoned by Corax, they were now accepted by the powerful Lord Nareth. Lord Nareth, who had led multiple legions to crush the evil, powerful Rangdan Xenos. Dazzling light shone in the selected Carcaradons' eyes. Those not selected looked down silently. Arcaz looked around and spoke, his voice low. Each of you will have the opportunity to follow Lord Nareth. That time will come. The eyes of the over 2,000 Carcaradons dimmed, then lit up. Filled with hope, they left through the open doors. As the dark grey fleet, its sides painted with white returning sharks, set sail, a black transport carrying the 1,129 Carcaradons, unarmored, flew towards the 9th chapter's flagship, the Relic-class vessel Wave. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawisjinzu. Chapter 708, Chapter 707, Golden Man, thank you for another uniqueness. 925.m30. In the third layer of the Kingdom of Disorder, Nareth examined the piece of black glass. It slowly rotated, wrapped in black mist. 3 years in reality, and I still haven't fully linked with you. The Mentor of Disorder activated his spirit vision, observing the intangible threads extending in 2 directions. Fine, spider silk threads linked to him. Clearly, it was not closely linked to him. Thicker, wire-like threads connected to an unassuming banner. He noticed that between the massive shrieking void and the banner shaft, the wire-like threads pulled against each other like magnets, trying to draw them together. The Red Priest and Demonis are 2 sides of the same coin, representing male and female. They hold authority over that domain. His eyes deepened. The Demonis authorities flashed through his mind. Primary authorities, Primordium, Chaos, Charm, Mirror World, Femininity. Subordinate authorities, Apocalypse, Dark Magic, Petrification, Disease, and Divine Kingdom. They also point to the same Sefirot, the city of calamity. The Red Priest has destruction and its subordinate authority, disaster. The Demoness has the return of all things to chaos, leading to destruction and end, and the apocalypse authority. Without the kingdom of disorder, the Sefirot's black mist barrier, they would merge. He thought of how the uniqueness had been his reward from the Emperor, chosen from the vault beneath Terra after the Rangdan War. It was also on Terra that the Emperor had entrusted the void glass to Arcaz. Perhaps this is not coincidence. It is the mutual attraction of the Red Priest and Demoness, like the natural attraction of male and female. He thought of how, 10,000 years later, the Shrieking Void would be activated in Carcaradons arena, causing panic. The Mirror World after activation is the Demoness' primary authority, the Mirror World. Recognizing the void glass's nature, he understood why, 10,000 years later, the Carcaradons' chief librarian, the pale nomad Tekahuranji, and chaplain Tang Adamanu, even the arena mistress, Lilith Hesperax, would collapse after seeing their soul's mirror image. Perhaps Manu was right. The Golden Men entrusted the void glass to Arcaz Fal not only as a contingency, but also to deliberately forget it. He looked at the irregular black glass, sighing. It is the uniqueness of the Demoness pathway. I didn't realize it when I first got it. The Mentor of Disorder stared at the black glass. Black mist churned, merging with his gaze, wrapping around its surface. Crack, crack, crack. Like the slow shattering of glass, the void within the void glass suddenly changed. A dark, illusory, unreal path slowly formed. It connected to the glass, forming a complex, mysterious web, intertwining into a deep, strange world. He watched the slowly forming mirror world. Mystery Pririli, mirrors symbolize a gateway to another realm. The mirror world is not a physical world. It is a collection of doors, connecting different mirrors, different mystery prioral realms. The uniqueness's black magic authority allowed the sequence 7, which, invisibility, to qualitatively change, evading my perception. As he thought, he felt the invisible mirror tremble. Threads extended, projecting towards him. The moment they touched the glass's surface, the black mist churned. The threads recoiled as if burned. The threads of law in the Mentor of Disorder's eyes faded. He understood. The Source's black mist barrier. The Source's power is higher than the uniqueness's level. The mirror world cannot capture or affect me. If I activated the Shrieking Void in reality, it would show my soul's mirror image, another me reflected in the mirror world. After a moment's thought, he immediately abandoned his plan to activate it in reality after linking with it. I cannot control a uniqueness yet. The Demoness pathway is different from the Red Priest. The Red Priest's uniqueness has the ritual authority. It follows the Sefirot's will, obeying me, the chosen of the kingdom of disorder. He recalled the accidents during his 3 uses of the Red Priest's uniqueness at Guggen. He decided not to risk using the Demoness uniqueness. After advancing to sequence 4, my life level will fundamentally change, and my authority will greatly increase. I will use it then. He looked at his 2 uniquenesses, half pleased, half self-deprecating. I have 2 uniquenesses. Unfortunately, neither is from the Black Emperor or Justiciar pathways of the Kingdom of Disorder. If they were, I could use most of their power. Still, being sequence 5 and having 2 uniquenesses is fortunate. Especially the Red Priest. I can use some of its power. His gaze returned to the void glass. He smiled. Golden Man, thank you for giving me another uniqueness. Perhaps I should put your mind at ease. An idea flashed through his mind: stop wandering, return to Vostroya, let you lock onto my position. As he smiled, he took a step, arriving before the dice of prophecy. He picked up the triangular pyramid. Compared to when he had received it from Malkador, its cooldown had increased by 1 standard month and 15 days. Divining the uniqueness had added a month. The Blade of Shadows, 10 days. The Horn Fragment, 5 days. Information about the Icarus system flashed through his mind. Segmentum Ultima, Eastern Galactic Edge. A hive world in the system, with a large population and developed industry. He was not taking from anyone this time. Though Icarus 4 was in the Segmentum Ultima, it was not the homeworld of any future chapter. But the entire system would one day have a population of 500 billion. Its location and industry were crucial to the Imperium, especially Icarus 4. After the information flashed through his mind, he silently intoned. Star chart from the Kalium gate to the Icarus system. After intoning it 11 times, he tossed the dice. After encoding the star chart on a data crystal, he stepped to the 4th layer and extended his spiritual energy, touching an orb. He transmitted the crystal to William Wood's orb, instructing. After integrating the Icarus system, conceal it. After the 10th chapter had gained nearly 40,000 faceless, its strength exceeding 60,000, the 12th chapter was now the smallest. He would not expand in Segmentum Pacificus for a considerable time. He decided to give the strategically vital Icarus system to the 12th chapter. Its future population of 500 billion would also be a source of recruits. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawisjinsu. Chapter 709, Chapter 708, The Emperor's Psychic Projection. 928.m30. Northwestern Galaxy. Dozens of stone spheres, orbiting a flickering star on staggered paths, rotated. Howling winds, appearing from nowhere in the airless void, crackled with lightning. The Sea of Souls churned, closing like a giant maw. From the tempest in the Sea of Souls, a ship wreathed in blazing golden light emerged. Dozens of stone spheres suddenly accelerated, spinning rapidly around the star. The star's flickering stabilized, then grew brighter and brighter. Crash! With several blazing fireballs streaking like meteors across the void, the star ignited. Blazing golden light flared. The brilliant light came not from the star, but from a tall, lean, handsome man. He wore a sturdy peasant's tunic, a solid brown beard on his chin. His shoulders were broad, his strong arms covered in old scars. He stared at the red giant. His golden eyes grew brighter. The wild power hidden within them projected outward. He stepped, walking up golden stairs towards the red giant. Silver-white rings suddenly appeared, contracting from different directions. His sturdy, peasant-clad form suddenly became a strong stag. The stag lowered its head, looking at its golden-red fur. The next instant, its beautiful, pure fur dulled. The golden light in its eyes dimmed. Its majestic antlers cracked and broke. Its eyes flickered. It felt itself return to countless years ago, wounded and fleeing in Moro. It looked around. It did not see Olivia. You are not them. You are but a dead serpent. The stag spoke. Its words were similar to High Gothic, but with slight differences in word endings. Revelation. A hissing voice sounded from nowhere. The stag, searching its memory, found the source. Greek. Specifically, the dialect of the Asia Minor city of Gordium. You and your sons are cheaters. With an angry hiss, it was instantly transported to a magnificent temple. Before it appeared a chariot, bound by a tangled, knotted Gordian knot. The stag examined itself. It had somehow returned to human form. He wore magnificent bronze armor. A crimson cape billowed. A silver-white serpent slowly materialized in the temple. Its eyes were cold and crimson. Do you remember the prophecy? Whoever unties the knot will rule the world. Do you remember what you did? The man, transformed from the stag, drew a short sword from his belt and slashed the knot. The next instant, he was back in his contemplative pose. The serpent's scales were covered in dense patterns and symbols, forming interconnected spinning wheels. The man stared, cut the knot, stared, cut the knot. He repeated the cycle, again and again. After 1,000 repetitions, golden light suddenly blazed in his eyes. Alexander is my true body. He is not here. I am Revelation. As you just said. The moment he spoke, the serpent hissed. The spinning wheels ignited with golden flames. The flames blazed. The serpent rapidly burned to ash. As golden light scattered, the temple, the chariot, the Gordian knot, all dissolved like burst bubbles. The magnificent armor and crimson cape vanished. The man returned to his true form. The tall, lean, handsome peasant, Revelation, with his brown beard. Alexander. The Emperor. Revelation. All the same. You always make the same choice. Cheating, taking shortcuts. The hiss was cold, laced with an indescribable mockery. Alexander cut the Gordian knot and ruled all the known world, but the cheating solution shows your rule will not last. Tens of thousands of light years away, in the heart of Terra's vast cavern, the Emperor looked up at the towering platform before him. A Gordian network of cables and conduits reflected in his eyes. As a shadow fell across his eyes, his psychic projection, Revelation, simultaneously blazed with golden light. Golden light, like two laser beams, shot into the red giant. His scarred arms reached out, clasping together. He bent, as if teaching his people to farm, millennia ago. He pulled. In the Sea of Souls, silver-white light, like sticky pythons, coiled around the golden beam. Silver-white lightning flashed in the northwestern galaxy, clashing with the golden light. Crash, crash, crash. Blue and purple lightning, born from the clash, coiled together like pythons. The colonists on the 12 planets of the Serpent's Cradle looked up in terror, watching the lightning tear across the blue sky. On the surface of Sondheim 8, near the Maw and Damaris, the lingering specters, as if suddenly facing daylight, grew ethereal and rapidly vanished. Shadows of order in black armor watched the blazing light tear across the sky, anxiously. Revelation's eyes blazed. He illuminated the red giant and the dozens of stone spheres like a golden sun. As he pulled, the golden wreath beam was dragged out. He spun his arms. The beam, following his movement, shot from the red giant's sphere. Dozens of stone spheres of various sizes scattered, forming a net in the beam's path. His broad shoulders shook. His thick arms bulged. His eyes focused on a single point. He hurled the beam towards it. The blazing beam shot between the stone spheres, becoming a streak of light, vanishing into the void. Revelation was drenched in viscous sweat. His weathered, peasant face gained new, deep wrinkles. Vostroya, Shadowhold. Nareth woke suddenly on his ebony bed. He sat up, looking vigilantly ahead. An intangible, blazing light leaped. The light grew brighter, outlining a massive spear. Its shaft was as thick as a communications array antenna. Its gleaming, golden, leaf-shaped blade was as long as a sword. He stared at the psychic relic floating in midair. The Dionysian spear. Indeed, after I stayed at Vostroya, the Golden Men could locate me. He retrieved the spear. Ouroboros, in its reboot, with home field advantage, still couldn't match the Golden Men. He smiled. The Golden Men is quite capable. I got it for free in the end. He rose and walked to the window. With a thought, the blinds clicked. He looked at the night sky. Night's rest. Not the dawn of the spear's return. 9 standard hours later, Nareth's psychic projection crossed the void, arriving at Terra's Golden Palace. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 710, Chapter 709, Nareth, my legion will mass-equip the Mark IV, which the loyalists won't have. Nareth's gaze swept the long table. One massive chair had been removed, and a new figure was present. His long, black hair fell over his black armor. He also had wings on his back. They were steel wings, shaped like a raven's. His gaunt face was pale as snow, his eyes dark as night. As he looked, a hearty laugh sounded. Horus Lupercal, smiling as always, spoke. Nareth, we have welcomed our last brother. The Raven Lord of Deliverance. The pale-faced figure spoke, his voice low. Corvus Corax. Horus, interrupted, glanced at Corax, seeming to sense something. Nareth saw Corax ignore Horus's gaze. He's displeased that his Terran-born sons, under Horus's command, have been too brutal. He's also the only Primarch during the Great Crusade to openly express dissatisfaction with Horus. Even Jagatai, wandering beyond the Imperium, the gloomy Mortarion, the Berserk Onran, were closer to Horus than to the Emperor. His eyes deepened. He glanced almost imperceptibly at Horus. No wonder Horus, as War Master, chose to make an example of Corax, forcing the Raven Guard, not suited for frontal assault, to charge head-on at the Battle of Gate 42. Horus just didn't expect Corax to publicly refuse his commands after the Legion suffered heavy casualties, becoming the smallest legion. Thus, Nerat Kirin's Ashen Claws will still be exiled. I gain another hidden piece. As he thought, he smiled. Corax, welcome back. He sat in the massive chair, leaning back. The palace was silent. The incense of the astropaths maintaining the psychic arrays rose, mist spreading beneath the golden dome. He felt something was missing. After a moment's thought, he realized, Leman Russ's annoying voice, his usual mockery of Magnus, was absent. Russ still hasn't recovered from the ill-fated fate line he gained from killing Hannibal. As he thought, the doors opened with a rumble. The Emperor entered with the Fabricator General of Mars, Malkador, and Constantine Valder following. He rose with the others, staring at the Emperor's face. His expression was calm, a perfect smile on his lips. He doesn't seem weakened. Did Ouroboros not harm him at all? My psychic projection is less perceptive than my true body. As he thought, he saw the golden eyes fall on him. The Emperor nodded slightly. What does this mean? Is he pleased I obeyed his command to stay at Vostroya, letting him locate me? Thoughts raced through his mind as he greeted the Emperor and sat. The Lord of Humanity sat, then looked at Lion L. Johnson, in his black terracotta armor, golden hair, seated to Nareth's left. Lion, you have cleansed the evil kleptos. This is another memorable Xeno's extermination of the Great Crusade. My lord, the Lion spoke, his voice grave. It is my duty. As he withdrew his gaze, it naturally swept over Nareth. Only they saw the Emperor as their sovereign, more than their father. Thinking of his father, the image of a long-absent figure appeared in his mind. Luther. Father and son. Luther, have you seen my campaigns against the Xenos? Have you seen the glory I have won? Do you regret it? As the Lion pondered, the Emperor's gaze fell on Nareth. My Pegasus, the wolf system is under invasion by the Ka. I think you have rested long enough. It is time to spread your wings again and grant them destruction. With the Dionysian spear back by my side, the Emperor is again assigning me powerful Xenos. As he thought, his gaze swept over Perturabo. Is Perturabo and the Iron Warriors being sent to the western galactic frontier another reason for giving me the Ka? He recalled the Ka were a powerful Xenos race the Iron Warriors had annihilated after 3 bloody campaigns. In the final campaign in 933, the Iron Warriors' 33rd Grand Company suffered 78% casualties. Yet the stern Lord of Iron did not blame his sons, considering the casualty rate acceptable. He knew the Ka were powerful not only from the Iron Warriors' casualties and Perturabo's unusual reaction, but also from the blasphemy slate. The Ka were the main ingredient for Sequence 5 Dream Stealer on the Error Pathway. Such potion materials must be powerful Xenos with special abilities. As you command. He readily accepted. Knowing the Ka were about to be exterminated, he would have volunteered even if the Emperor hadn't assigned them. The Emperor smiled and nodded, his gaze moving from Nareth to the opposite side of the table. The Mark II Crusade pattern power armor has shown obvious flaws in battle. I want Mars to design a new pattern of power armor to support the Astartes legions. Hearing this, he glanced almost imperceptibly at Horus opposite him. He knew the Mark IV Maximus pattern power armor, born at the height of the Great Crusade, was lighter and more maneuverable than the Mark II, without sacrificing protection. But its fielding began just before the heresy, and only half the legions had completed the transition. That half was concentrated among the traitor legions. The fallen Horus, using his authority as War Master and the help of Fabricator General Kele, allocated the Mark IV and other advanced equipment to the traitor legions. At the start of the heresy, the loyalist Astartes legions primarily used Mark II and Mark III power armor. After the heresy began, the loyalists, cut off from stable raw materials, were forced to modify their designs, producing the Mark V heresy pattern from whatever they could find. Of course, the Iron Hands, with their own forging capabilities and ties to the Mechanicum, always had plentiful Cataphractii pattern Terminator armor. I need to find a way to ensure my legion is mass-equipped with the Mark IV, which the loyalists won't have, before the heresy. Shadows of Orders forged Lord Rosicki and Malvolius, based on Dominum armor technology, could only craft custom armor for court earls and viscounts. Only some barons were lucky enough to receive his custom suits. Chapter masters and company captains' honor guards were equipped with Saturnine and Cataphractii Terminator prototypes. Most Shadows of Order still used Mark II and Mark III power armor, though many suits had attached Rangdan personal energy shields, Squat Void shields, and 6319 invisibility fields. He decided that, when the heresy came, his basic armor patterns would not be inferior to the traitors. The Fabricator General spoke, his Vox synthesizer sounding. Martian tech priests are designing a new pattern of power armor. The Omnisia's servants will offer a new gift for the Great Crusade's climax. Ending his psychic projection, he returned to the Shadow's sovereignty and ordered the 1st, 3rd, and 10th chapters to assemble at the Kalium Gate. Besides the 10th chapter, the largest and in need of tempering, the sheriffs, who could detect anomalies, and the Darkness Pathway Beyonders, skilled in dealing with dreams, were best suited for the Ka. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawasjinzu. Chapter 711, Chapter 710, Nareth's idea of the best recruiting source. In the 3rd layer of the Kingdom of Disorder, Nareth set down the dice of prophecy. He then encoded the star chart, just divined and pointing to a new fragment of Belaker's relic, onto a data crystal. After completing the encoding, he turned the gleaming crystal, his eyes deep. It's in the Antimar subsector. Not the Coronis Expanse, nor the neighboring Calixis sector. No rush, then. Receiving reports from the Serpent's Cradle and the 4th chapter stationed on Sonheim 8, he thought of the new trace of Belaker's relic recently discovered by Arsena done from the Rud's Mycelium books. The information was too vague to pinpoint, only indicating it was in the Segmentum Obscurus. He thought perhaps his taking of the Blade of Shadows had caused a change. He immediately used the cool dice of prophecy to divine, only to find it was not in that region. The Antimar subsector. He repeated the region, his mind flashing to a feral world. Vesser. Vesser was a world he had long wanted to conquer. Without considering loyalty, or more precisely, loyalty based on wealth, the Vesserines were his idea of the best recruiting source. Especially with chaos on the rise. He had not acted before, lacking confidence in subduing them. After all, the Imperial Departamento Munitorum, already established and with growing power, had tried everything and failed. But now, as a mentor of disorder, with majesty and the somewhat improved corrosion, he should be able to subdue a significant portion of the Vesserines. The contracts made in the 2nd shadow layer could compel the rest, those with steadfast will. A shadow contract is still a mercenary contract. He decided, after the Ka, I will go to the Antimar subsector, subdue the Vesserines, and find the newly divined Belaker fragment. He then thought of the anomaly that had blazed from the northeast to the southeast of the future Coronis Expanse, occurring just before the Dionysian spear returned to him. Could it have been caused by the Emperor's clash with Ouroboros when retrieving the spear? He personally attended the War Council that day. Did he send a psychic projection, or a clone? Regardless, thank you for helping me get it for free. With this thought, he stepped back to reality. He quickly walked to the bridge and handed the data crystal to Librarian Marone, newly promoted to Codicil. Among the honor guard he had selected this time, the largest number were the black-armored Carcaradons, followed by the former faceless of the 10th chapter. He was surprised that Sasebo Tezuka was not among them, though Marone was still selected and performed well. He had already made him into a mystery prior. Marone took the crystal and walked to his console to read and back up the information. My lord. Arsena bowed to the Black Emperor, then raised his control rod. The hololithic strategic table's projection rapidly enlarged. Void ships were marked with red runes. Auspex has scanned the entire system. No Xenos ships detected. The keel tags of all 74 ships in the Wolf system are Imperial. Notably, 29 are registered to activity zones, the nearest of which is 15 light-years away. He thought of the Ka, the main ingredient for Dream Stealer. Recalling the blasphemy slate's image of them as a mass of flowing fire, he speculated. No ships of their own. They parasitize human ships, even crews, to travel to other human colonies. As he thought, Arsena continued. The Master of Vox broadcast on all channels. Received replies from 12 ships. They replied in Gothic, claiming no Xenos attack in the system. But when we asked them to dock in different quadrants, they did not reply. The Xenos have taken control of the ships. He stared at the ships marked with red runes in the upper quadrant. If the Ka's dream stealers steal human thoughts, memories, or dreams, they probably don't gain skills like doppelgangers do after drinking blood. With this thought, he raised his right hand and quickly traced 2 arcs on either side of the slow-rotating upper quadrant, bordering the left and right quadrants. Dispatch destroyers to harass from both flanks, draw their fire. As you command. A signals adjutant immediately sank his mind into the data ocean of the Simulus chamber. The 10th chapter's Thorn, a hunter-class destroyer inherited from the data-deleted Legion, repainted, its modified punishment-class reactor ignited. On its bridge, Sasebo Tezuka glanced gloomily at Terrasoldi beside him and Ordonez slouched in his seat. The image of them, mouth stained with blood, on the Lico fishman's bowl-shaped ship, flashed through his mind. Ordonez, relay orders. Turn to 576, incline 4. Our mission is to lure the enemy. The 3 destroyers under his command arced like arrows, shooting towards the target fleet in the upper quadrant. He had forfeited the chance to join the Father's honor guard out of concern for his squad members, but had been promoted to adjutant for his achievements and a command vacancy. Terrasoldi, uneasy under the adjutant's gaze, looked at the screen. They're firing without plan, as chaotic as orcs. As he spoke, a thought flashed through his mind. Are orcs tasty? What do they taste like? Green mushroom soup. He suppressed an instinctive throat movement, imagining another potential food. Are the Ka tasty? Grilled steak. Father is exhausting their ammunition. Sasebo ordered Ordonez. Pull up the enemy's hit-to-fire ratio. Ordonez glanced at the data, surprised. Their damage assessment is far below average. Their hit rate is only 6.3% of shots fired. They're even firing while turning, without locking onto targets. He watched the rain of fire, the churning torpedoes, like children wildly firing a machine gun. Adjust course. Keep cutting in at an angle, make them turn, waste more ammunition. Adjutant, we have a chance to assault the target ships. Terrasoldi's eyes lit up. Though the Hunter-class destroyers had no boarding torpedoes, they carried shadow-pattern Stormbirds, which could assault at close range if the enemy's self-defense cannons were down. The shadow-pattern Stormbird was much smaller than the Warhawk, widely used by other legions since the early Great Crusade and capable of carrying 100 Astartes. It was also smaller than the Soaker-pattern Stormbird, experimentally fielded and favored by the World Eaters and Space Wolves. The Soaker could carry 50 Astartes or 5 dreadnoughts of various patterns, plus a Rhino. The Shadow pattern could only carry 10 Shadows of Order and 1 Vostroy pattern Rhino. Part of its space was taken up by a quantum field repulsor. Based on information from the Technobaron Dawn, the Shadow pattern was unique to Shadows of Order. Besides Shadows of Order's Tech Marines, who had mastered the quantum field repulsor from Dawn's complete information, only the artisans of Forge World Kiavar possessed this technology, using it on the Raven Guard's aircraft. You want to eat the Ka? Sasebo's eyes flickered. If there's an opportunity, I will give the order. He hoped to gain achievements, to again earn a place in the Honor Guard. Load 12 Devastator missiles. Remove the Rhino. Terrasoldi's eyes lit up. Replacing the Rhino, unsuitable for tight ship spaces, with missiles meant the adjutant agreed to his suggestion. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 712, Chapter 711, Xenos that use bolt guns after eating dreams. 3 shadow pattern Stormbirds launched from the Hunter-class destroyer, flying silently towards a heavy transport. Sasebo Tezuka, lieutenant of the 36th Company, 10th chapter, sat in the co-pilot's seat. He watched the distance close. The anti-air fire ignored the 3 iron birds, not covering their flight path. When the distance closed to 1 kilometer, he raised his gauntlet and rapidly tapped the panel. The 4 Devastator missiles under the shadow pattern Stormbird's wings shot out. Compared to the standard pattern, the shadow pattern had a shorter wingspan and carried 2 fewer missiles. But the missiles, powered by a Punisher-class reactor, had far greater striking power than those of other Stormbird patterns. The first volley of 12 Devastator missiles struck the same section of the deck. The void shields flickered. The second volley overloaded the transport's dorsal shields, striking the steel hull. The third volley tore the ship open, detonating inside. The shadow pattern Stormbird dove. Sasebo stared at the streams of fire in the smoke. The flames were roughly rat-shaped, squirming as they looked up. The quantum field repulsor, powered by the Punisher-class reactor, shrouded the iron bird like a veil. Light was repelled. The roar of the impact was muffled. When the Stormbird's nose was 10 meters from the deck, he saw the Ka clearly, teal fur within the flames. Sharp shrieks sounded. Only now did the Ka sense the descending shadow. They scattered, fleeing. 3 squads of shadows of order leaped out. He leaped from the cockpit, landing on the deck. His magnetic boots activated, holding him steady. Heat and wind washed over him. He raised his hunting gun. Needles shot towards the rat-like forms. Swoosh! A needle flew into the flames. With a crack, it exploded. Most of the liquid vaporized in the bright red flames. A small amount struck the teal fur. The rat-like form leaped as if scalded. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. Bolt guns. The shadows of order quickly holstered their hunting guns and raised their bedrock pattern bolters. Their retinal displays showed biometric data. Crosshairs locked onto red runes. Crack, crack, crack. Adamantium-tipped rounds struck, raising clouds of flame. The Ka shrieked. 2 rat-like forms at the center of the fire were blown apart, scattering into sparks. Thud. He saw the Ka hit by the earlier needle tremble and collapse. The rat-like form tensed. Even mostly vaporized, the Nasirian anesthetic is more effective against the Ka than bolt rounds. Hunting guns. He shouted. As the shadows of order estemonist weapons, the Ka raised their guns. Their weapons looked like orc shuttas, cobbled from junk, the grips and triggers fused, blobs of melted metal. Rat-tat-tat-tat. Barrages struck Mark III power armor, harmlessly ricocheting, clattering to the deck. The shadows of order raised their hunting guns and fired. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The shrieks faded. Clumps of flame curled and collapsed. Terrasoldi walked to a Ka, staring at the teal form within the flames. Adjutant, the Lord said we can consume captured Xenos in battle. He looked around. Only 1. Only 10 are for eating. The rest are for fodder. We'll take turns. Ordonez spoke. Terrasoldi, you first. Good. Terrasoldi removed his helmet and eagerly picked up a Ka, as large as a hive city rat. He opened his mouth wide, biting into the teal fur, flames licking. The hot flesh entered his mouth. Flames crackled and fell. Moments later, the crunching stopped. His lips were swollen and hot. A crack opened at the corner of his mouth. His armor was scorched black, as if coated in volcanic ash. At the same moment, 15,000 kilometers away, on another transport, a squad of shadows of order from the 10th chapter's 48th company moved through a narrow passage. The passage, sized for humans, was too narrow for them. They had to move sideways. As their humming armor echoed, a sharp crack sounded. They looked up. Streams of light cascaded down. Thud, thud, thud. Countless Ka rained down on them. They clung to their armor. Teal claws, wreathed in flames, scratched frantically. Crack, crack, crack. Fragile helmet lenses were torn. Claws scrabbled at helmets. They shook their heads. Their bodies slammed against steel walls. Flames blazed. The Ka shrieked as they were crushed. A tide of rats fell, slamming into them. A Ka was the first to burrow into a helmet, its body wrapping around a shadows of order's neck. He grabbed the flaming form, his gauntlet hot, and hurled it away. 2 Ka clung to his arms, their bodies coiling around them. He struggled to shake them off. Another Ka landed on him. Its body coiled around his neck. Its teal claws beat at his head. Crash. Dazed, more from the impact than the blows, his eyes went blank. He was suddenly in a training ground, raising a bolt gun, aiming at a target. Crack, crack, crack. As the bolts thundered, the image shattered. He stood empty-handed in an empty training ground. As flames flickered, the shadows of order lost his memories in his sleep. His past was stolen by the flame-wreathed Xenos. As shadows of order stood frozen, a Ka leaped onto an arm, grabbing a bolt gun. Its claws trembled, unable to hold the heavy weapon. Crash! The bolt gun fell, striking a Ka wrapped around the shadows of Order's leg. The Ka leaped, staring at the gun. It looked up, shrieking. 2 Ka on another's helmet leaped, one on each side, trembling as they raised the gun. The shrieking Ka reached out with its claws, mimicking the shadows of Order, reaching for the trigger. 6 claws slid over the black gun. Flames danced. The bedrock pattern bolter, more stable than standard models, rapidly reddened. Crash! Crack, crack, crack. 3 Ka were thrown by the explosion. If you enjoy the story, my Patreon is 30 chapters ahead. patreon.com/dawasjinsu. Chapter 713, Chapter 712, I declare, I will punish the Ka in Nyx's hive. Wolf Prime, Nyx's hive. Dixon, first company captain of the first chapter, walked into a home with an open door. He stared at the dining table. The food on it emitted a strong, rotten odor. The man and woman, and 2 children, lay on the floor, facing different directions, some curled, some on their sides. Their eyes showed large areas of white, their pupils contracted to points. Their bodies had been burned to desiccated corpses. The seasoned sheriff crouched. A point of golden light appeared in his black pupils. The scorch marks on the floor rapidly became clear. In his mind, he traced the Ka bursting through the door, flowing fire pouncing on the 4, wrapping around them. The Xeno's claws struck their heads, rendering them unconscious. They were eventually burned to death in their sleep. As he rose, his helmet emitted a piercing buzz. He answered. A voice came through. Company captain, the entire hive is dead. After investigation, the manner of death is similar, eyes white, bodies blackened. 61st Squad has entered the Underhive, but so far, no Xenos found. Acknowledged. He said firmly. They are still here. In the Underhive. Ending the call, he recalled the Black Emperor's command. He looked at the corpses, raised his power gauntlet, and swore his punishment oath in Dunnik. I declare, I will punish the Ka in Nyx's hive. The judge's voice, with his spiritual energy, rippled outward, raising points of golden light. His honor guard captain and 2 other guard members in Saturnine pattern Terminator armor felt an indescribable authority emanating from him. They instinctively bowed their heads in submission. A light like dawn suddenly blazed, spreading, thickening the air. Seconds later, the light converged on his body. He intuitively felt his body merge with a peculiar power. It was his judgment, his declaration of punishment against the Ka. 3 standard hours later, he led his honor guard into the Underhive. Clang. The door opened. He and the other judges stepped out. Their pace matched the guard members in Cataphractii pattern Terminator armor. The dim lumen lights in the dome flickered. Scattered stalls reeked of decay. Blackened corpses lay about. As they advanced, golden light blazed in the seasoned sheriff's eyes. They looked in different directions, examining their new jurisdictions. He suddenly raised his left arm and shouted in Dunnik, Lash. As he swung his gauntlet, Ka hiding among the burning boilers, waiting to ambush the approaching black-armored giants, were struck by an invisible whip. Their flames flickered. They shrieked, bursting into streams of fire, leaping out. He raised his right hand and shouted, This place forbids supernatural flames. An invisible force spread. With a series of sharp cracks, the flames around the Xenos blazed, then vanished. The judges turned, raised their left arms with him, and shouted in Dunnik, Exile. Invisible forces struck the Ka, hurling them away. Crash, crash, crash. They slammed into ruined buildings, toppled broken equipment. The judges lunged, raising their right arms, imprison. Viscous, almost solid, transparent liquid materialized. Huge amber blocks encased the rat-like forms. Layered walls, cross-stacked, sealed groups of Xenos. He looked at the punished Xenos and ordered, load them onto transports. Offer them to Father. 929.M30. Nyx's hive. He leaned forward, clenching his fist, his arm swinging. He shouted in Dunnik, Die. His body merged with a peculiar power. Trailing after images, he slammed into a rat-like form. The blazing blue fist, with unstoppable, unavoidable force, struck the flame-wreathed form. Crash. With a thunderous crack, the rat's head exploded in a bloody mist. In the rising blood mist, he, having jurisdiction over Nyx's hive for a year, confirmed he had punished the last Ka in his jurisdiction. Most of them, over 5,000, had been imprisoned and offered to the Black Emperor. This last one he had killed deliberately, to complete the Black Emperor's command. He had completed the punishment ritual. He removed his gauntlet, took out the golden potion, and drank. The moment the potion entered his mouth, golden light like dawn blazed in his throat. It fell, landing in his stomach. The light enveloped his entire body, covering his mind. The judges of his honor guard felt he had grown. Not physically. The authority emanating from him made them feel taller, as if he could, with a wave, decide their lives. They felt an unaccountable fear, involuntarily lowering their heads, kneeling. Thud, thud, thud. One by one, they knelt. He felt those around him hanging on his every word, obeying his every command. He felt as if seated on the golden throne, looking down. As he reveled in his authority, burning ash appeared in his eyes. The golden throne, an illusion. I am Father's son. I am the Black Emperor's punishing fist. The burning ash consumed the illusory throne. He reigned in his thoughts and began to meditate. Moments later, the newly promoted, disciplinary paladin felt his body confined within his armor. The heavy Saturnine pattern Terminator armor felt much lighter than before, like wearing Mark II Crusade pattern power armor as an arbiter. He realized the armor hadn't grown lighter. He had grown stronger, after receiving the Black Emperor's fifth gift. Power filled every part of his body. Golden light flickered in his eyes. His spirit was purer. He moved carefully, thinking to himself. I need to see the Forge Lord. I need new armor. Fortunately, this armor is not only Saturnine pattern. It has an adaptive system. Whoever receives it will inherit nearly 70 years of my combat experience, and gain a strong body. As Arbiter Lord Howard Fender of the first chapter, 1st Company Captain Dixon, 2nd Company Captain Yasin, and 3rd Company Captain Michael, among others, successively punished the Kaan Wolf and advanced to Sequence 5, Disciplinary Paladin, countless flame-wreathed rat-like forms emerged from dark corners in Morley's Nox Hive. If you enjoy the story, my P at Trian is 30 chapters ahead. p@trian.com/dawisjinsu